Hey guys, my name is Rob Noire, and today I have a very special video for you that's a little bit different than what I usually do, but I kind of had this idea for a video in my head for a while. I kind of want to try exploring a few things that are a little bit different than what I typically do, and I thought this could be really fun. So today, we're actually going to be looking at my boxed consoles, the consoles that I own in my collection that are complete in box. So I have the actual box, I have the manuals, I have everything that goes with them. There's not a lot of these, but I have collected a few over the years. I thought it'd be interesting to see kind of which ones I actually have. It's also worth noting that I'm not even 100% sure. There's so much stuff that I haven't touched in years. I'm gonna have to pull some out from storage. Like, I'm not even completely sure what I have. So it's gonna be a little bit of an adventure for me and hopefully a fun little journey for you as well. I'm also gonna show the console itself, kind of the goodies that it comes with, talk a little bit about where I got it from, what it does, and just all that good stuff. So yeah, guys, let's just go right to it. So first off here, we're gonna start with what are probably the least exciting complete in box consoles that I own. We'll kind of work our way down to the more juicy stuff. And of the least exciting, the least interesting is probably this here, the Retron 77 that I'm showing. Now this is a clone system produced by Hyperkin, and it's alright, it's not the greatest, but the unique thing about it is that it actually plays Atari 2600 games. And there's not a lot of clone systems out there that actually support the original Atari. Now it is basically just an emulation box, but if you want to get the most out of it, there's actually custom fan firmware that you can load onto it that really improves the experience. Now it does come with a little manual here that I'm flipping through that looks pretty decent, pretty high quality. It also has all these boxes and packing material to hold the console itself and the controller. Now say what you will about the console itself, but the packaging is actually pretty high quality and looks really nice. It evokes that 70s retro feel which really jives with the Atari brand. And the pictures of the console, the joystick, all that are very glossy and stand out from the box itself. Overall, I do really like this box. I think it's very nice looking. Now next up, another one of my clone systems here is the AVS by RetroUSB. Now this clone system is designed to play your NES and Famicom games, and much like the Retron 77, it outputs in 720p. Unlike the Retron 77 though, this is not just an emulation box, this actually runs on FPGA. As a result, it's extremely accurate to original hardware, and I really like this console. It comes with a basic manual here, which again has diagrams and looks pretty nice, as well as the standard packaging material to hold the console inside the box. Not really much more to say about it, but it does actually get a lot of use in my game room. This is where it lives most of the time, and honestly, I really like this console. The packaging is pretty basic, it's nothing special, but it gets the job done. Now getting on to the slightly more exciting clone consoles, but with even less exciting packaging, this is the box for my Analogue Super NT, a Super Nintendo clone console made by the company Analogue, which is FPGA based, so it's extremely accurate to original hardware, and it does output in 1080p. Packaging does leave a lot to be desired though. I guess they were just kind of going for a minimalist thing, as you'll see with like the next clone console, but it's just kind of like an ordinary black box. Opening it up, it has a little bit of packaging and kind of like a plastic inset mold for the console, as well as a tiny little booklet. The booklet does have some cool diagrams of the console itself, as well as some information on Super Turrican. Super Turrican, of course, being a game that is packed in with the console. But overall, this packaging, it really doesn't impress me all that much. This could literally be anything. You have no idea what you're looking at without actually knowing that, hey, the Super NT was in there. And you can pretty much say the exact same thing about the Analogue Mega SG, which is another clone console by Analogue, which is FPGA based and outputs in 1080p. But this one is all about the Sega Genesis. It does come with a little bit more than the Super NT did. You notice there's a lot more plastic molds to hold a lot more. It also has another little booklet here, which is pretty much the same thing. All in all though, not a really impressive showing from Analogue. Like, the box of a console is supposed to make you want to play that console, and these boxes just look like something that I would usually just, you know, tear up and throw into the recycling. I don't, because I'm a collector and I know that I shouldn't, but there's really nothing impressive about this packaging. So why don't we move on to something a little bit more exciting. Here's my complete in box original PlayStation. Well, PlayStation Classic Edition, that is. Actually, not that much more exciting. Even more disappointing, I would say, than anything I've shown. I picked this up because it was literally $9.99. That's how much they were charging for it by the end. Nobody wanted these things. Now, if you don't know what this is, the PlayStation Classic is basically like the NES Classic or the SNES Classic. It's an emulator in a box for the original PlayStation that comes preloaded with a bunch of games. This is also going to be the only complete in-box console I'm showing in this video that I actually leave in the box and do not use whatsoever, because this thing is really underwhelming. Packaging itself is pretty decent, if a bit complicated. The manual / booklet that it comes with really reminds me of the manuals that the PlayStation 2 and 3 came with, so I mean, props to them on that. The controllers themselves, though, feel really cheap, like the plastic does not feel high quality. All in all, decent packaging. Alright, now we're getting on to the more interesting stuff. This is my complete in-box Glacier Game Boy Advance. This I actually bought as part of a very large Game Boy lot on eBay. When all is said and done, I probably paid about maybe 20 bucks for this Game Boy Advance, so I'm extremely happy with it, and I still play this Game Boy Advance to this day. It runs perfectly. Now, in terms of packaging, there's not a ton going on. There's like some plastic bags. The Game Boy kind of fits into the box itself. There's nothing that really comes out. It does have a bunch of these little booklets / manuals, though. Register here for a chance to win a Game Boy Advance pack of your choice. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Nintendo Power. It also has one of those fold-out booklets, which I don't personally like because I find they get creased and wrinkled. Still, a very fun console, and the packaging does let you know what's inside and make you excited to play it, so I think it does its job pretty well. Alright, now we're moving on to the big guns. And by that, I mean the gigantic boxes that I have that you might have been able to see in the opening shot of this video. The Sega Genesis Model 2. This box is really big, although not as big as the next one that you'll be seeing, but it's still kind of enormous. I really like all the artwork, the images of the console on the box, and on the back, all the different games that they show. There's a very nice sampling of what you can expect to play with the Sega Genesis. Inside is a bunch of cardboard box inserts to kind of hold the Genesis, the power supply, and all that. I know you can't really see it too well in this shot because the box is so big. I was also storing some boxes for some Genesis controllers in there, apparently. I totally forgot about that. All in all, I like this packaging. I just wish the box was maybe a little bit smaller and a little bit easier to store. But that's nothing compared to this next box, the Sega CD Model 2. Now, both this and the Sega Genesis Model 2 I bought as part of a giant Sega Genesis lot. And while it wasn't cheap, I think it was definitely worth the price I paid. This Sega CD Model 2 box is a lot like the Sega Genesis Model 2 box. It has some very nice pictures of the console itself, some nice diagrams, some pictures of the games that you can expect to play. All in all, I think it looks really good. I just wish it wasn't quite so gigantic. And opening it up here, you can see the cardboard inserts that hold the console itself, the power supply, all that. As well, I was also keeping the manual for my Genesis Model 2 in here along with the manual for the Sega CD. Manuals are okay, they don't look that amazing compared to the rest, but they do the job. All in all, I think the packaging on this one is pretty cool, if, like, enormous. Now as well, I do also own the Sega Power Base Converter, which is kind of like a console, a 1.5 half of a console. This slips onto a Model 1 Genesis and lets you play Sega Master System games. So while not a console on its own, it kind of is in the same way that the 32X is. There's not a lot going on with this. The packaging is cool, but as you can see, the box I have is a little bit beat up. Inside is the Power Base Converter itself, held in place with some styrofoam. Packaging is a little bit underwhelming though, but that really matches kind of like the whole Master System aesthetic, so I can't really harp on it. Next up though, another giant box here is my Xbox One, with Kinect, of course. Now I bought this a few years back because they were running a massive deal on Xbox Ones. I got this console, like 5 games besides the ones that are included with the console, and an extra controller for something like $200 to $250, so it was not expensive. Now I do really like the Xbox green that covers the entire box, as well as the various images of the console itself. I feel like they could have done more with the games that it comes with, or maybe show some other Xbox games that you can play on it, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. It also has a handle on the top of the box, as if they're like straight out acknowledging the fact that, yeah, this box is kind of huge, it might be a bit heavy, here, we'll make it easier to carry. Inside, the packaging is pretty basic, there's not a whole lot going on. It comes with a manual, but it's not full color or anything that cool. It doesn't even really have too many diagrams of the console or anything. It's a little underwhelming. I know that the Xbox One does get a lot of hate, but I will say I do enjoy playing this console. Probably one of the most used consoles in my entire collection, although more for as a multimedia streaming device, like for Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and YouTube, than actually playing games. And when I do play games on it, 75% of them are through the backwards compatibility program and not new Xbox games, but I still feel like the Xbox One deserves some credit. It is a pretty solid console, it's just not really quite as popular as, say, the PS4 or the Switch. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch, that's the next complete in-box console that I'm showing off here. Now, the packaging of the Switch is pretty excellent in my opinion. Like, on the front, you see what the console looks like docked. On the back, they give you a really nice image of what it looks like undocked. So right off the bat, it's showing you, the two different ways that you can use this console, which is very smart. The artwork / images of the console are very crisp, really fresh, as well as the white and red contrast. Inside, the moment you open it up, you're presented with the Switch itself, as well as your two Joy-Cons. You take that out, and then you have the packaging that holds, like the power supply, the dock, all the other things inside there. It's also very simple, really easy to put back together, and very kind of like clean looking. They did a great job here. And while unfortunately the boxes for what I'm going to show next have been lost through the passage of time, I do still have some remnants of what came with the boxes. For example, here is the manual that came with my original N64 that I owned as a child. As well, here's the manual from the original PS3 that I owned, which unfortunately died and burned out way back in the day, like many years ago. Then after having dug all this stuff out of storage, I realized I kind of wanted to display them, so I redid my entire top shelf up here. Very cramped. I kind of had to Tetris everything into place as best I could, but pretty much everything's up there, so. Alright guys, well there you go. That was a look at all of the boxed consoles that I currently own. There are a few surprises in there that I did not remember still having, but overall I think I remembered most of it, and it was pretty fun to actually look at these, open them up, and kind of look at what came with them, all the packaging, all that. Hopefully you guys had a good time as well. I'd love to hear down in the comments below what boxed consoles you currently own and your stories of how you acquired them, whether you just went out and bought them day one, if you found them at a garage sale, you've just kept them for years and years. Like, I'd love to hear about it. So yeah guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Take care.